Sure. There should be a kirtan if you're going to do that kind of thing. Can we have a little kirtan? Oh, look at this. Mridanga player? Go ahead, just go. Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Nami.
Hare Krishna. So we'll do the Achaman, and after that the neck beats will be changed like that. Okay, just
I don't see that.
I demonstrate how to perform the Achaman.
Premananda, do they have neck beads?
But there is the mantra now. Om
Apavitra
Pavitrova
Sarvavastam
Gato Piva Yasmarit Pundarikaksham Sabhahyabhyantara Suchihi Sri Vishnu. Om Keshvaya Namaha.
Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi. Adam, watch.
You can, until then, you can remove a mask. Remove a mask until we do this one. Okay, next one. Again, Om Apavitra Pavitrova Sarvavastam Gato Piva Yasmarit Pundarikaksham Sa Bhaya Abhyantara Suchihi Sri Vishnu. Om Narayanaya Namaha. Right? There. Like, hit from the base of your palm. Okay. Again, purify this. Like, yeah. Put it down. Discard. Again. With the right hand, you have to use the right hand. Hold the spoon with the left hand. Like, okay. Sit. Again. Om. Mataji, you are having this? Okay. Om apavitra pavitro va sarvavastam gato piva yasmarit pundarikaksham sa bahya abhyantara suchihi Sri Vishnu. Now, same way, hold it left hand to the left hand, take in the right hand, spit it from the base of the palm saying, Om Govindaya Namaha.
Om Govindaya Namaha. Okay. Okay. Masks again, please. It'll be great when this is over. The mask season is done. This is an important step in the life of a soul's journey, according to our Vedic tradition. There are different transition stages for the soul, like a samskara for conception, and a samskara while the soul is still within the womb becoming conscious, and samskara just after the soul is born, and so forth and so on. These samskaras are juncture points or transition points between something and the next something. Marriage is another, from not being married to married, and death is another one, something everyone will experience. So this is amongst the various samskaras, this is most significant because it marks the transition between not yet being formally connected with Krishna and being formally connected with Krishna. Diksha. There's a nice definition I think you'll appreciate hearing. Yata kanchanatam yati kamsyam rasavidanataha tata diksha vidhanena dvijatvam jayate nrinam. I'm not a Sanskrit scholar, but I know a few things. Yata tata. When you hear that, immediately a light goes on that says, this is a comparison, a metaphor. As this, so that. Yata tata. So the first part is the something that's more known, and then tata is something that's less known and is being compared to the thing that's more known. So, yata kanchanatam yati kamsyam rasa vidanataha means, rasa has different meanings, but in this particular case it means mercury, or the ancient term was quicksilver, mercury. So, as mercury or quicksilver, rasa vidhanataha, by proper procedure, vidha, like vidhis, vidhanataha, by proper procedure, by combination with rasa or quicksilver or mercury, kamsyam is almost the same dhatu or root as kamsa, base metal, becomes gold. By the way that Prabhupada has explained this is, he in his own words, it's a process of alchemy. There's alchemy, this I did, don't know too much about what alchemy is, but its standard understanding is, it was popular during medieval Europe time, and was a precursor to chemistry and medicine. So it's not just a chemical, but it's an alchemy process where one of the things that alchemists were experimenting with is how to take base metal and turn it into gold. It had something to do with the present we have a table of elements, so many elements, and they're finding new ones. And so making the base elements into precious elements by process of alchemy, a kind of mystical transforming of something into something. And they had a fundamental understanding that there's certain elements that make up everything, and you combine the elements that make up everything from base metal, and you can transform it into precious metal, gold or silver. And it was present before medieval Europe. It was present in other cultures, older cultures than European cultures, like in India and in China and in Persia. They each had their alchemists that were trying to, by mystical processes, do other things, making elixirs so you can become eternal and things like that. So Prabhupada describes the Vedic alchemy of transforming base metal into gold by using mercury. So it's interesting. I thought you'd like to hear this. The yogis that knew the art, in the evening before they would take rest, they'd swallow mercury. Anybody that has children, you don't have thermometers around children, because in thermometers is mercury, and if they swallow the mercury, they're dead. So you don't let children play with thermometers or with mercury. But the yogis, they knew. If they didn't, they were dead, because they knew how to swallow mercury, Prabhupada's description. And then in the morning when they would wake up and pass water, they would pass water mixed with mercury on base metal, and it would turn into gold. That was the yogic process of transforming base metal into gold. So, yata kanchanatam yati kamsyam rasa vidhanataha. That's the first part. As that, which isn't very well known, but it was, in Vedic times, it was known. Then tata diksha. So diksha vidhanita, those who are learned, vid means those who are wise and learned. Tata diksha vidhanina dvijitvam. Dvija means twice born, and tvam means having the quality of, or ness. Twice bornedness. Dvijitvam. Jayate. Rinam. Ninam is the ordinary, it's the base metal. The ordinary person can become Dvija by the process of Diksha. So in this particular Samskara of Diksha, it's one of the number of Samskaras that are recommended for the soul to progress by spiritual elevation. There's some procedure, some yajna, some samskara that's performed to help the soul transition towards its ultimate destination. And this diksha is most important amongst them. I mean, there are others that are not unimportant, but most important, because it signifies becoming Dvija. So in that samskara process, it's described in different traditions. The Sri Vaishnavas have their way of describing the Pancha Samskara, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote a nice essay titled Pancha Samskara. Pancha means five, and there are five elements that are involved in this vidhanina. The the proper procedure. So, tata diksha vidhanena dvijatam jayate. So, the word vidhi appears in both the yata and the tata. There's rules, there's regulations, there's procedures to be followed. So we're following them. That's what all this is. And the mantras and so forth. The procedure is to be followed. And the most important part of the procedure is not the fruits and the other items, although that's part of the procedure. It's and it's the mantras that are chanted by the Brahmana, or qualified Brahmana over here. Dhananjaya Pandit is a qualified Brahmana. And it's the submission through disciplic succession, submission unto Krishna. So here's the 5, one of which we just did. Receiving neck beads. Here's a little history. A little history is, during Bhaktivinoda Thakur's time, who wrote this Pancha Samskara essay, he didn't wear neck beads until he was initiated. Prabhupada had us wear neck beads. And the reason for wearing neck beads, one of them is to warn the Yamadutas. We're Vishnu Bhaktas, so we're protected from the Yamadutas by that submission to Vishnu, by wearing not just an ornament, a necklace, but submission to Vishnu. The essence is not the necklace. The essence is... So, one of the 5 of the Pancha is receive neck beads. So, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, some history, when he was living in Jagannath Puri, by that time in his life he had received a very special copy of Srimad Bhagavatam, and every day Bhaktivinoda Thakur would go to, very near his house was the Jagannath Vallabha Gardens. When someday, if you haven't been to Puri, you'll go. And it's a nice place. Lord Chaitanya would go there to rest during Rath Yatra and so forth. It's a nice place. And he went to Jagannath Vallabha Gardens and would give classes in the Srimad Bhagavatam. During his time, there was one Babaji, there were several, but there was one Babaji in Puri that took exception and started speaking badly about Bhaktivinoda Thakur. You shouldn't go to hear his Srimad Bhagavatam class. And this Babaji contracted a lethal disease. It's not clear what disease that was, some kind of disease. And his body started withering. And he had a dream. In his dream, Lord Jagannath appeared and scolded him. You have this disease because you've offended a great Vaishnava. You should go to him, fall at his feet, beg his forgiveness, explain what you did and beg his forgiveness. Order from Jagannath. So, as sick as he was, he went to Bhaktivinoda and apologized and said, the reason I was speaking like I did is because you didn't have neck beads and you didn't have tilak, because that's the second thing with the Pancha Samskara process, is one receives tilak. In other traditions, one also receives tilak at the time of initiation and thereafter continues with tilak. So those are 2 of the 5. He said, I haven't found my guru yet, so I'm not wearing neck beads and tilak. That was Bhaktivinoda Thakur's answer. I'm praying to the Lord that I may one day receive that good fortune. So the Babaji then understood. Of course, he understood from Jagannath that he's a great Vaishnava. And so not only Bhaktivinoda Thakur forgave the man for his speaking badly against him, but he arranged for some medicine that cured the man's disease. And after that, that Babaji, became a very close friend of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Interesting history. So that connects with the Pancha Samskara. Then there's 3 others. one of the three others is tapa. Tapa means austerity. We know what Lord Brahma did. He heard the syllables tapa, tapa. You familiar with this? In the very beginning of creation, he appeared from the lotus that was grown from the navel of Garbhodaksha Vishnu, and he was inquisitive to know, who am I and where have I come from? He heard splashing beneath him, so he reasoned, if I just climb down this stem, I'll find out where I came from. He climbed down and down and down and down and down, and by empiric search, he couldn't find his source. But he heard the syllables, tapa, and he knew what that meant, because he was very intelligent. So he climbed back up the stem and did his tapa, his austerity. His austerity specifically was chanting of his mantra. He received mantra, and he began chanting his mantra. He was initiated and proceeded with tapa. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes in this essay, in the Sri Vaishnava tradition, the initiates receive a brand or a mark on their shoulder of symbols of Vishnu, left shoulder, right shoulder, with a hot piece of metal. It's on their shoulder now. It doesn't go away. They're the property of Vishnu. Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes, Lord Chaitanya was more merciful. He didn't require that, but for him, for his followers, the tapa is regret. Regret, not obsessive, feeling bad about yourself, but regret that so much time has been wasted in pursuit of enjoyment in the temporary realm, and sufficient regret so that you move on. That kind of tapa, he explains. So that's 3 out of 5. And the 2 additional ones will be happening today, and that's a name of Vishnu or Krishna or Radharani or something in relation to Krishna that reminds one of Krishna, like Vishnu Das, Krishna Das, etc. So a spiritual name, along with Dve Ja. Ja means birth, and Dve means 2, second birth. So Dve Ja Tvam Jayate Nrinam. So one is given a name, a spiritual name, to help you remember Krishna. And by that remembrance of Krishna, you go to Krishna. By remembrance of Krishna, you go to Krishna. When this mantra that you just chanted 3 times, led by Dhananjaya Pandit, I'll explain that mantra. Om apavitra pavitro va snarvavastam gatopi va, having passed through, whether purified or not purified, pavitra apavitra, sarvavastam gatopi va, having passed through A to Z, all circumstances of life. Wherever you've been, that's not the essential. High, low, your birth and financial and socio-economic, cultural, anything, doesn't matter. Pavitra apavitra sarvavastam gatopiva yasmaret. Smaret, smarana, remembrance of Krishna. Yasmaret pundarikaksham. The lotus-eyed, pundarikaksham, the lotus-eyed Krishna, pundarikaksham, sabhaya, abhyantara suchihi. One become purified just by remembrance of Krishna, and our remembrance of Krishna is primarily through the chanting of its holy name. That's our purification. Like Brahma's tapa, that's our tapa. then the names, Sri Vishnu, Sri Vishnu, Sri Vishnu. And then names, Om Narayanaya Namaha, Om Madhavaya Namaha, Om Govindaya Namaha. Saying names. That's the essence of our purification. So that's 4 out of 5. And number 5 of 5 is traditionally when one received Gayatri mantras, traditionally Guru would also give the disciple deity. Commonly was a Shalagram Shila, so they could do their puja at home. Now, we don't have puja at home with first initiation or Shalagram Shilas either. We have deities, and it's a step, this vidhanina, or this alchemy-like process, is a Vedic process of going from ja to dvija, from birth by mother and father to birth from the Vedas and the spiritual master, mother and father. Mother the Vedas and father the spiritual master, to connect one with Krishna. That's our Pancha Samskara. That's what we're doing. According to, you can forward the Premananda, you remind, send me a little text message to send you this essay. You can send it to the initiates of the Pancha Samskara essay. So that's what we're doing. It's one of the essential Vedic processes. Now, the Vedic process that we follow, there's 2 standard parallel methodologies for Vedic rituals. One is the Vaidika process, and the other is what we follow, the Pancharatrika process. And it's found within the Vedas. It's not otherwise. It's found within the Vedas, the Pancharatrika system, Narada Pancharatra and the Agamas and so forth and so on. So this is what we're doing. And other Vaishnava lines do the same. And it's very important in the soul's journey from one station of life to the next station of life. Because it's a transition, therefore Prabhupada gave this nice translation of diksha as initiation. But there's another definition. D in diksha, di refers to, according to Jiva Goswami, it refers to divyam jnanam. Divyam jnanam. At the time of initiation, one is divyam jnanam. One receives, that's another nice verse. Diksha is understood by learned persons as a process whereby one receives transcendental knowledge. One receives transcendental knowledge through the mantra. Particularly, it's mentioned through Gayatri mantra, but the Hare Krishna mantra is a beginning stage for us to go further and further in the bhakti process. So diksha, ksha has to do with the eradication of sin, waking of transcendental knowledge, and the eradication of sin. That's diksha, another definition of diksha. There's a Sanskrit verse that indicates this. So that's what we're doing. Diksha. Awakening of transcendental knowledge and eradication of sin. And the essence of that eradication of sin has everything to do with the tapa. For Gaudiyas, that's submission. Submission to Krishna. Now, supposing submission slackens. It happens sometimes. One's very enthusiastic at a certain stage and, continues for some time and is recognized by the elders in the Vaishnava community. These individuals are ready. They've demonstrated their enthusiasm to submit to Krishna and make their life Krishna conscious. So initiation comes. Supposing submission slackens, It does happen. So we wish that you 5 initiates don't slacken. But in some cases, we've seen that it happens. And when it happens, Bhaktisiddhanta explains that the previous material samskaras start to emerge again. Tendencies start to emerge again. That is, things that you used to do, you start to think about doing again. That's where it starts. Just think about, and let your mind linger on those things. Like maybe missing out on something or whatever. Vasana is the Sanskrit term. Mental impressions that are kind of lingering. Now it's one thing if in the mind comes some remembrance of something. Prabhupada often spoke about a verse from Jamunacharya. Jamunacharya was the spiritual master of Ramanujacharya, which means he was very, very, very elevated personality. The spiritual master of Ramanujacharya. Before he was an acharya, he was the son of a Brahmin who was engaged in a debate with the chief priest of the king, and he defeated the king. So the king gave him half his kingdom. So he became a ruler. And as a ruler, he had license for material enjoyment. He had opulence and he had sexual activity like kings would do. He later became an acharya, and those remembrances of those material involvements, particularly mentioned in one of his verses, when the thought came to his mind of sex life that he previously had experienced as a king, his lips would curl. He said, "My lips curl and I spit on the thought." Because of, not just because it's dirty, but because he was experiencing a happiness that was so much better. And that other happiness which allures the whole world, not just humans, but all species of life are very easily, naturally attracted. It makes the world go round. The propagation of species makes the world go round. So there's some attraction. I don't know if you've been noticing, I've been noticing, there's a lot of geese around. Geese are kind of like taking over. And, there's the male goose and the female goose, the goose and the gander, I guess they call it. And there's all these little guys. It's something I learned. Don't go near the little guys, because the mother goose will come after you, and she won't let you go. So don't. But, they didn't go to school to learn how to have attraction between male and female. It's built into the propagation of species. So that attraction for material enjoyment of different types, that's one type, but any type, that's a vasana. And one who succumbs to that at some stage of life, it sticks as an impression. It doesn't do it again and again, and it becomes a very strong impression. So if submission slackens, that's what's likely to happen. Those things that, the vasanas that are there, that are carried in the subtle body, they come out when you're not protected, those things come out. So Bhakti will protect you. Bhakti will do more than protect you. We were discussing just today, this afternoon, in Canto 3, Chapter 25, verse number, 38? That the subtle body is dissolved. 33? You can look it up later. 3:25, 33. She's going to double check. The subtle body is dissolved. It's not just, recedes, but it's dissolved. When Bhakti becomes pure, Bhakti has the power to dissolve the subtle body. Yay! That's really ready for a celebration. That's when bhakti becomes pure. Until then, those impressions, they just fade. They become so insignificant because of the power of bhakti. That's what this initiation is, what Diksha is to make that connection, formalize it in the mood of submission. 33? Okay. 3:25, 33. And so keep going. The initiation, Prabhupada called it a beginning, because these two things. Divyam Jnanam is awakened, and by submission to the mantra, it's the mantra that's to deliver, it's Krishna that's the deliverer, and the disciplic successions are the distributors of Krishna through mantra. And the teachings of Krishna through Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, etc., that give Krishna in those forms. And Diksha is a submission to that gift and the acceptance by Krishna of, here's a qualified candidate to receive this gift. So my point here is, be very cautious about slackening in submission. That's my point. Be very cautious. Because, it's to be enthusiastic for some period of time, that's fine. And then how to maintain enthusiasm for a long period of time, that's even greater. And then the fruit, the mature fruit of bhakti is yours. It's gradual, but the mature fruit of bhakti becomes yours. So initiation is a beginning. Diksha is a beginning. That's the English translation Prabhupada has given us, initiation. Just like when you start something, you initiate a business or a journey or something, and you try to create auspiciousness at the beginning of something. That's what samskara is. From if you begin a journey or begin a business or begin a marriage, and you have a purification ceremony. And then, some people get married and then they stop being married. Something happens. Because the purpose of the marriage is forgotten, it becomes something else. So the purpose of the marriage, purpose of initiation is to make the Krishna connection formalized. So then the Krishna Das or Vishnu Das, etc., is part of that, to assist you. Characteristically, I want to say two other verses that Srila Prabhupada, when I heard initiation lectures, recorded and in person, invariably Prabhupada would make reference to certain verses from Scripture. Here's one. So I'm just following Prabhupada. Tad vijnanartam sagurum eva abhigachyat samatpani shrotriyam brahmanishtam. What does that mean? Tad vijnanartam. Vijnana. Tad vijnanam. That person who wants to know the absolute truth. Tad vijnanartam. The sagarum eva abhigachyat. Again, I don't know Sanskrit, I just know what Prabhupada said. Abhigachyat indicates a must. It's not an option. If one wants to know the absolute truth, and one wants to know Krishna, you can't access or even begin to understand Krishna on your own. Sa gurum eva. Eva is certainly abhigachyat. One requires a spiritual master. And the rest, samitpani. Samitpani means hands. And samitpani, carrying firewood in your hand. Like Krishna and Sudama did for their guru, Samitpani. They went to gather wood for the yajna in the forest. and which means, in simple terms, it means humble service. Very, humble, not proud, but service. Service to Krishna, service to the representatives of Krishna, samitpani, with a humble service mood. With a humble service mood. That's the qualification of the one who's submitting to the Diksha process. And then the one is submitting unto. Shrotriyam, the guru, Shrotriyam, one who has heard, Shruti, they've heard the Vedas, they've studied the Vedas, they've understood the Vedas. Shrotriyam, Brahmanishtam, they're firmly fixed. Nishtha, fixed in Brahman, they don't waver. Samatpani, Shrotriyam, Brahmanishtam. So it's a Vedic text in kind of code-like terminology to explain what we're doing. And the imperative necessity. Now, how often, but what's the population of Naperville? Or what's the population of the world? And how many people are at the stage of feeling the imperative, compelling necessity to take shelter of Guru? Not very many. And some want initiation because it's a fashion. Prabhupada's caution is no, not for that reason. It's when there's Shreya Uttama, Jigyasu, this is the other verse. Jigyasu means acquisitiveness. In Shreya Uttama, Jigyasu Shreya Uttama, acquisitive into the Uttama benefit. Shreya and Preyas. I hope you don't mind. You can listen to this recording later and pick up all the Sanskrit. It's good to learn what our Vedas are teaching and trying to share. So, short-term benefit, long-term benefit. A child's play, prayas. At some point, the parents will say, you have to go to school. Oh, we want to play. No, there's the Shreyas aspect, because later in life you're going to need an education, and so you have to go to school. Short-term benefit, long-term benefit. Similarly, human form of life, engage in indulging the senses in whatever to get some short-term whatever, pleasure, so-called pleasure. And then there's Shreyas, long-term benefit. Hold a minute. The human form of life is meant for something more than that. What's that? It's meant for self-realization. Oh, so how do I realize the self? So that's the Shreya. And Shreya Uttama, Jigyasu Shreya Uttama, that's what initiation is for. The process that we're doing today is meant for that purpose. And let me advise you that part of the cause that brings people to slacken over time is they forget. They become more attracted to prayas than shreyas. They become more attracted to fruitive activity than their ultimate good. So when one is doing those things that are part of life that are necessary for maintaining the body and so forth and so on, your occupation and whatever your social dealings are, fulfilling the needs for friendship and love and society and so forth, they're not dismissed, but if that displaces, to become so important that it displaces Shreyas, the long term, Shreya Uttama, that's when bhakti goes down and the other stuff comes up. So stay always connected. you have all come to the stage of your Krishna Bhakti by sadhu sangha. And there are different persons, some primary persons and some other secondary persons who have been very instrumental in helping you come to the stage where you are today. Keep those relationships vital and strong and palpable. And it may, as you evolve in your bhakti life, find other persons, additional persons. Never leave behind those. So that there's a saying: don't never bite the hand that feeds you. You heard that one before. So some persons have nurtured you in your Krishna bhakti. Be always grateful. Gratitude in the heart is so essential. And ultimately, I'll end with this, the primary repository of gratitude should go to our founder Acharya, because we're here because of his feeding hand. And where would we be, where would ISKCON be, and where would the world be without that? Don't think too much about it. It's not a pleasant thought. So maintain that sense of gratitude to our founder Acharya and to the others who represent him and those who represent those, and the nurturing sources. Stay connected with a grateful heart to those personalities. And if you start to slacken, they'll tap you on the shoulder. Or when you continue to read Prabhupada's books, he'll tap you in your ear and say, wake up. Don't slacken. So when gratitude is in the heart, you're in good hands. Be careful not to let your chanting become mechanical, or your reading your devotional activities become mechanical. Rather, strive to make your devotional activities, everything, from the heart. Continue from the bhakti perspective to grow that relationship with Krishna. That's what Diksha is doing. It's submission to Krishna, and let it stay warm. The submission to Krishna, wanting to understand Krishna. What? Jigyasu Shreya Uttama. Good phrase to remember. Jigyasu, inquisitiveness into the absolute truth. Brahma Jigyasa. Wanting to know Krishna in your relationship with Krishna. And it's a journey. It's a journey. It's not, Diksha is an event that's part of a journey. It's not, I remember once upon a time I surrendered to Krishna. It was really great. Done. It's an ongoing submission. And I wanted to mention one other thing. I was introduced to a nice verse. I shared it with the devotees from China yesterday. And Premananda is going to remind me so I can send her a copy so she can circulate this to all of you. It includes a nice visual. It's a drawing by Janavi Harrison. She's a wonderful singer, celebrated personality in ISKCON. She, the kirtan queen, very great personality. Just like during the 4th of July weekend, Badahari is going to come. He's a celebrated personality in America. Janavi Harrison is celebrated. He's celebrated around the world. Janavi Harrison is celebrated in the UK. She's the daughter of Kripamoya. Anyway, so this is her drawing. It's Hanuman calling Ram's name. It's an illustration to accompany this verse. So I encourage you. You can take it as an instruction if you like, but at least I encourage you to strive to follow what this verse says. It's really simple. I'll just read the translation. The mantra firmly situated in the mind firmly situated in the mantra, Such a seamless connection of the mind and mantra is the characteristic of ideal japa. Good luck. Because as you meditate on this and become successful at this, the door to the spiritual world is open. It's not easy, because the mind has a tendency to be distracted, etc., etc. But the process is very sublime and very natural. Manmana. Think of Krishna through his name. Yasmaret pundarikaksham, the mantra that you chanted at the very beginning. Yasmaret smarat, remember, pundarikaksham. Shri Vishnu, Shri Vishnu, Shri Vishnu. And one becomes purified and qualified. But let the mind go to the name. And the name is not disconnected from the mind. A seamless connection. Strive like that, and you'll do very well in your spiritual life. So it's now time for giving names. Yes? And then we'll chant Brahma-samhita and move on with this. Or should we chant Brahma-samhita and give the names? Chant Brahma-samhita. You have a Brahma-samhita sheet. And I chant a little fast, so just follow along. Ishara Parama Krishna Sachit Ananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam Chintamani Prakara Sadma Sukalpa Briksha Laksha Vritesu Surabhira Vipalayantam Lakshmi Sahasra Shata Sambrama Sevyamanam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Venum Konvantam Aravinda Dalaya Taksham Parhavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandarpakoti Kamaniya Vishesha Shobham Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Aloda Chandrakada Sadvana Malya Vankshi Ratnangadam Pranaya Keli Kalavilasam Shamam Tribangaladitam Diyata Prakasham Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasya Sakalendriya Vrittimanti Pashyanti Panti Kadayanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sad Ujvala Vigrahasya Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Advaitam Achutam Anadim Anantarupam Adyam Puranam Purusham Navayovanam Cha Vedeshu Durlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhaktao Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Pantashta Koti Shadavatsara Sampragamyo Vayo Ratapi Manasomuni Pungavanam Sopyasti Yadprapada Sinya Vachincha Tatve Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ekopya Saurachayatam Jagadanda Kotim Yachaktirasti Jagadanda Chayadantaha Adantarasta Paramanu Chayantarastam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Bhava Bhava Tadiyama Najasta Taiva Samprapya Rupa Mahimashanayana Bosha Suktair Eva Nigama Pratataistuvanti Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavitabhis Tabirya Eva Nijarupataya Kalabihi Goloka Eva Nivisatya Kilatma Bhoto Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Premanjanacharita bhakti vilochanena santak sadaiva hridayeshu vilokayanti yam shama sundaram achinchu ganasarupam govindamadi purusham amaham bhajami ramadi murtushakhalani amena tishtan nanavataram akarodvabaneshu kinto krishna smayam samabhavak paramakpamanyo govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami yasya prabha prabhavato jagadanta koti koti svashesha vasutali vibhuti bhinnam govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami maya hi yasya jagadanta shatani sutte Traigunya tadvishaya vidivitaya mana Satpavalambi parasatvam vishuddha sattvam Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami Ananda chinmaya rasamataya manakso Yatpraninam pariparam smarutam upetya Leelayatena bhuvanani jagatya jasram Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami Golokanami nijadami tadecha tasya Devi maheshu haridama suteshu teshu Te te prabhava nichaya vihitasya yena Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami Shrishti stiti pranaya sadhana shaktireka Chayeva yasya bhuvanani vibharti durga Ichhanurupam api yasya tatesta tesa Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami Kshiram yatadadhi vikara vishesha yogat Sandhyayate nihitatak pratagasti hetoho Yaksham bhutam api tatha samupaiti karyat Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami Deeparchireva hidrisham dhanam abhyupetya Deepayateva vrittahetu samana dharma Yasthadrigeva yachay vishnutaya vivati Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami Karanarna bhajane bhajati sma yoga Nidramananta jagadanda saroma kupaha Adara shakti bhavadam yaparam sumurtim Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami Yasyaika nishvasita kalamatavadambya Jivanti loma vidacha jagadanda nataha Vishnur mahasiya yasya kalabhishesho Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami Vasvadhyatang smasa kaneshu nijesha teja Sviyam kiyad prakariyat tadvitad vadatra Brahmaya esha jagadanda vidhana karta Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami Yatpada pallava yagan vididhaya kumbha Dvandve pranama samaye saganani rajaha Bighan vihantam anamasya jagatrayasya Bhajami Agnir Mahika Gurun Ambu Marudha Shasha Kalastatatma Manasita Jagatrayani Yasmad Bhavanti Vibhavanti Vishanti Yancha Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yachakshur Isa Savita Sakala Grahanam Raja Samasta Suramurti Shesha Tejaha Yasyagya Brahmati Samrita Kala Chakro Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Dharmo Tapapa Nichaya Shrutayasta Pangsi Brahmadi Kitta Patakavadayasta Jivaha Yadatra Prakata Prabhava Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yastvindra Gopam Atavindra Mahosva Karma Bandhanurupa Padabhajanam Atanoti Karmani Nirdahitu Kinchucha Bhakti Bhajam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yam Krodha Kama Sahaja Pranayadi Viti Vat Sanya Moha Gura Gaurava Sevya Bhavai sanchintya tasya sadrishim tanam aparete govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami Shriya Kanta Kanta Parama Purusha Kalpa Taravo Drumat Bhumis Chintamani Ganamaito Yamamritam Kata Ganam Natyam Ganamam Apin Bhakti Priyasaki Shiranandam Jyoti Paramapitad Asvadyam Apicha Sa Yatraksharadhi Shrabati Surabhibhyasya Sumahan Nimeshad Yakyo Vrajati Nahi Yatrapi Samaya Vaje Shveta Dripam Tamaham Iha Golokamityam Vidantaste Shantashati Viranachara Katipaye Ishvara Parama Krishna Ananda Vigraha Govinda Okay, so now comes the taking of vows. I'm just going to go on the list as it is here. Adam, and then Josh, and then Ashish come forward. Peter, please. Okay. Did you supply this bead bag? Okay. Okay. 3 parts. You're before the deities and the Vaishnavas and spiritual master. Vows for initiation. How many rounds you'll chant every day? Minimum 16. And the 4 rules that you'll follow? Very good. And you'll make your best effort to follow carefully Prabhupada's teaching for the rest of your life. Good. Let's see. Should get it straight. Your initiated name, Achyuta Bhava Das.
Achyuta Bhava Prabhu Ki Jai.
You can look up later. Go ahead, sit down. The Achyuta Bhava appears in the Bhagavatam a few times. And one of the places it appears is Canto 1, Chapter 5, verse 12. Achyuta is a name for Krishna. Achyuta Bhava, one has feelings of love for Achyuta Bhava. It's a nice name for a quality of a devotee. Come forward. It's nice to see you without the... For those of you that don't know, I've only seen him with this. What inspired it? Just, okay. Okay. Here we go. For the rest of your life, how many rounds of the Hare Krishna mantra will you chant on these beads? Okay, for the rest of your life, right? Good. And you'll, the 4 rules that you'll follow? good. And you'll make your best effort to carefully follow Prabhupada's teachings for the rest of your life. Okay. Your initiated name is Jaya Gora Das.
Jaya Gaura Das Prabhu ki.
No explanation needed. Jaya Gora Das. Okay. So like the others, your initiation vows are 3. How many rounds you'll chant of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra for the rest of your life? Minimum 16. And the 4 rules that you'll follow? Okay. And like your friends here, you'll continue to chant and to follow Prabhupada's teachings carefully. Your initiated name is Amala Atmana.
Amala Atmana Das Prabhu ki.
You'll find the words Amala Atmana about 20 times in the Bhagavatam. Vyasadeva liked it. You'll like it too. Amala Atmana. Amala means pure. That's a pure devotee, pure soul. Amala Atmana. Mataji? Okay, let's go. Now the ladies have these thinner beads. Is there some reason for that? Did you prefer beads like this? Okay. Sometimes ladies like smaller beads, but sometimes men like larger beads. Okay. So how many rounds of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra you'll chant daily? We're going with you. You go. 16. You didn't pay your obeisances yet. So go pay your obeisances. I'm sorry, I thought you did. So we're going to switch order. You come. So you know the routine. We're just going to have you take these 3 vows. You also have these skinny beads. Okay. How many rounds of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra you'll chant daily? Minimum 16. The 4 rules that you'll follow. Very good. And you'll continue as you've been doing, carefully following Prabhupada's teachings the rest of your life. It's a good vow. Your initiated name is Chintamani Devi Das.
Chintamani Devi Dasi Mata ki jai.
You'll find the name Chintamani in the prayers we just chanted. The whole spiritual world is Chintamani. Touchstone. Sacred. Okay, now we'll try again. Okay, not yet. So you already did the first part, 16 rounds minimum for the rest of your life. And the 4 rules that you follow? Okay. And you'll also carefully follow Prabhupada's teachings as best you can for the rest of your life. Okay, your initiated name is Sara Grahi Devi Dasi.
Naragrahi Devidasi Mata Ki Jai.
Sara means essence, and Sara Grahi is one who has grasped the essence, or sometimes swan-like, like Paramahansa. You take the milk from the water and milk. Sara Grahi, one who takes the essence. So now we're ready for the yajna. You're going to do some preliminary mantras, or have you done them? Okay, so you want kirtan going on?
Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna,
Hare Rama,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare
Om Bhusvaha, Om Bhuvasvaha, Om Swaha, Om Bhurbhuvasvaha. So I'll be chanting Pranam Mantra of Maharaj. All of you can repeat, and then after that Maharaj will chant the Pranam Mantras, all other things. Namo Vishnupadaya
Namo Vishnupadaya
Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Ramapada Swami Iti Namine Swaha Swaha Swaha
Om Ajnanatimidandasya Dhananjana Salakaya Chakshudamiditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Swaha Swaha Swaha. They don't have green? Are they tossing the grain?
Put it there, so last one will put in this. Just put it there only. The other plate we will have.
Do they have sufficient?
Yes.
Doesn't look to me. Are there more grain? Somebody can help with some
We
more.
have sufficient.
Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam
Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam
Tapitam Yena Bhutade Sayam Rupakadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Swaha Swaha Swaha. Why are they not throwing grain? Oh, they're putting onto the plate. Okay, okay. Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Kamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavansha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatham Anvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitangscha Saha Swaha Swaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve
Namaste Saraswati
Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschachati Satarine Swaha Swaha Swaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale
Krishna Prasthaya
Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta
Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta
Saraswati Iti Namine
Saraswati
Shri Varshabhanavi Devi
Shri Varshabhanavi Devi
Dayataya Kripabdaye
Jayataya Kripate
Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Dayane Prabhave Namaha Madhuryo Jwala Premadhya Shri Rupa Nuga Bhaktida Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupa Nuga Viruddha Apasiddhanta Dvanta Harine Swaha Swaha Swaha. Namo Gaura Kishoraya
Namo Gaurashoraya
Sakshad Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambarasambode
Vipralambarasambode
Padambo Jayate Namaha
Jayate
Swaha 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 Namo Bhakti Vinodaya
Namo Bhakti
Sachit Anandanamine Gaura Shakti Sarupaya Rupanugavarayate Swaha 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 Gaura Virbhava Bhumistvam Nirdeshta Sajjana Priyaha Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Shri Jagannathayate Namaha Swaha 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 Pancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Swaha 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 Namo Mahabhadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvashe Namaha Swaha 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 Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Swaha 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 He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Swaha 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 Jayatam Suratau Pangor Mama Mandamatirgati Matsarvasvapadam Bhojo Radha Madanamohano Swaha 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 Divyad Vrindaranya Kalpa Dramadaha Srimad Ratnagara Singhasanasto Srimad Radha Sri Govinda Deva Prasthadibhi Sevyamano Smarami Swaha 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 Shriman Rasa Rasarambi Vangshi Vatatatastaha Karshan Venusvanayar Gopir Gopinath Shriyaistunaha Swaha 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 Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Swaha 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 Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Swaha, Swaha, Swaha. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Swaha, Swaha, Swaha. Now we have one more mantra, but before we do that, I forgot something very important. There's something that I forgot that's very important is, and then we'll do the last mantra, is our initiates, some of you know and some of you don't know. So I'd like to have Pratibha speak something about the men here, and Premananda speak something about the ladies, if that's okay. Can you give him the microphone? He's got his notes. Look at this. Take your mask off. Got too many things in your hands.
I'll begin with Achyuta Bhavadas Prabhu, Adam.
Oh, that's what you had to put the name. Okay, that's the notes he's looking at.
I have known him for about 1.5 years now. And just last year, in 2020, right before COVID, he and his wife, they had come here at ISKCON Naperville. He was seeking some, he was going to different temples, but he was seeking a higher philosophy and understanding. And since then, after that, he just picked up. He took it up extremely seriously, and he would join different classes and began to understand Bhagavad Gita. And while he was doing that, he also had to go, he went through some very serious health issues, and Maharaj helped him. He connected him to a cancer specialist, and when we talked to him, it was very helpful. I mean, at that time we didn't understand, but later on in his cancer treatment, whatever he said actually came out to be true, and that's the treatment he went through. And I would like to say that during that treatment, what we learn in Bhagavad Gita and what we learn in scriptures, he actually applied at that time. It was his third relapse of cancer, and he made it through. He was eagerly waiting to be initiated. He had deleted all his social media groups, his name and everything, his profiles, and he was waiting to be initiated so that he can recreate them and use with his new name, and he can use them for spreading Krishna consciousness, because we are doing some Western preaching, and it's required to have some social presence, social media presence.
Dream come true.
Next, I'll mention about Ashish Yadav, Amala Atmanadas Prabhu. They also came to ISKCON Naperville in the winter camp, 2019 winter camp. And that's when they came first in contact with Krishna consciousness. And Premananda Mataji asked them to join my Bhakti Vriksha. And since after that, he just took it up. He would come here for services, and he would not like to leave. He would want to stay in association of the devotees.
Gotta go home now.
So he immediately like picked it up and he liked it. And then due to some situations, visa issues and other things, he had to go back to India. And then we lost touch for a few months. And then once his wife Shraddha sent some pictures from India about them, like in wedding pictures and all, and my wife showed them to me. That's when I thought, no, I think we need to reconnect. Nothing wrong with attending wedding, but like, I mean, not staying in touch was, I could see it would, the Krishna consciousness that they had got would get lost pretty soon. But with Krishna's mercy, they came back during a time when the visas were very difficult to get by coming here. But with Krishna's mercies and with devotees' blessings, they came back. They came in Connecticut and they stayed in touch. And he continued to take Krishna consciousness very seriously and engage in different services. He took the communication course and joined His Grace Anuttama Prabhu's communication team, serving with him. And he also assists our Western preaching activities by writing different articles, managing different the projects that we do, making sure they are on time, we follow up, and etc., etc. Next, Josh or Jaya Gaura Das Prabhu. He is a real example of the ticking time bomb that Srila Prabhupada used to talk about. He was in Navy and he got the Bhagavad Gita and came in contact with devotees about 17 or 18 years back.
Woohoo.
In Mauritius and then in Hawaii. And he got the Bhagavad Gita, and then since then he was reading Bhagavad Gita, and he said he was reading, he had read the Bhagavad Gita a few times, but then he came here, he works right here behind in Nalco, and once he came and he wanted to visit the temple, but the temple was closed because of the Arctic, the cold. Arctic, what is it called? Okay, Arctic cold.
Arctic cold.
Arctic blast.
Oh.
It was minus 50 degrees centigrade. So because of ice and all things, we had to close the temple. And he had emailed saying that I want to visit. And that's how I came in contact with him. I followed up with him and got to know him a little bit. And he came to know that he's interested in Bhagavad Gita. So I invited him to our discussion groups. And he also took it from there. His experience was that he had been reading Bhagavad Gita for many years, but coming and associating with the devotees and understanding with the devotees made a huge difference in understanding. And he also took up the different services. Every day he forwards the Srila Prabhupada's lectures to the group, which everyone hears. He's also slowly, he's also facilitating Bhagavad Gita classes with some newcomers.
Wow.
He lives in Michigan, and therefore he goes to Harmony Collective in Ypsilanti. And he really likes the Srimad Bhagavatam class and taking care of the cows sometimes when they need his service. So, and he also is helping with the Western preaching. And one of the things that Maharaj just said today, this is the first time he saw him without the beard, without the facial hairs. And one thing before initiation, he had asked me, what should I be doing? And I said, remove your beard. And he said, oh man, that's the most difficult thing. And then when I saw him today, I said, okay, so this is your first step to surrender. That's it.
Okay.
I wish them all the best in their spiritual life on this very auspicious occasion, in the presence of Sri Sri Radha Madhava, Sri Sri Radha Shyamsundar.
Chintamani Devidasi. I met her in around 2015 here at the temple, and the first time itself came to understand that she's coming from a family who has been following Gaudiya Vaishnava traditions for probably generations back. When I met her, I think she was not seriously chanting but she knew that's what the family was doing, and she really appreciated that. And by the time she started visiting our temple, she was quite prepared to reconnect with the holy name and chant systematically. There was a time when I used to come on Saturdays here, and we had a group of devotees who were chanting together, and she was one of them. And I could see her genuine interest in the practice of Krishna consciousness, and it was reflected in course of time in many other things that she got involved. I had connected her with the Pradibhahu's guest reception team, and she was doing service there. And in course of time, she joined Shatrupa and Pradibhahu's Bhakti Shastri program. This is real genuine interest in chanting the holy name and wanting to study the scriptures. And I have seen that she never let go of that. She's very fixed in that. She has two boys who are pretty much, one of them is here. Both of them are grown and almost finishing colleges and all that. And she is completely dedicated to the process of Krishna consciousness, and I wish her all the best. I forgot the name. Antaranga, is it? Saragrahi.
Grahi.
Saragrahi. So Saragrahi Devidasi also I came across in 2015. She was also part of the Japa group, and she also I connected with Pradibhahu for the reception, guest reception. She also followed similarly. She was also deeply interested in chanting. I could see that from the very beginning it only improved. There was no slackening of any sort. On her own, she also joined the Bhakti Shastri program, systematically studying the scriptures. And her mother is also a great inspiration. She's so favorable to Krishna consciousness, and elderly lady. She travels between the daughter and other children, and she's also amazing. Her daughters are also grown, and they are all employed and pretty much committed to serious practice of Krishna consciousness. And I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Okay, our final mantra requires a banana for each one of you. Do we have bananas? Okay, come get your banana. And we're going to have you stand up and gently place the banana in the fire when we say swaha. Okay, so chant responsibly. Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha Jagat Hitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha Swaha Swaha Swaha. Your plate with the greens, they also go in the fire. The greens, not the plate. Okay, let's have kirtan.
Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Rama